Coming up on CPTV, a big vote is coming to Crown Point in early May that will have an enormous effect on our community. Hundreds gather on the CP Square for the hands-off protest, and the CP baseball team face Twin Lakes on Saturday. CPTV is up next. Hi, I'm Ryan Welsh.
And I'm Ari Pantoja.
Welcome to CPTV. Later on in the show, Raina Stevens will have your 5-day weather forecast, and Mireille Fernandez will bring us all the highlights in CP sports.
Here's what's happening in Crown Point.
On May 6th, there's a vote on the ballot in which the Crown Point Community School Corporation will ask taxpayers to renew an operating referendum first approved by voters in 2011. Explaining the referendum and what it means for our school corporation, here's CPTV's Trent Jocelyn.
Big decisions are coming to Crown Point, decisions that could directly impact your teachers, class sizes, and even school safety. On May 6, voters will decide whether to renew a school funding referendum that's been in place since 2011. And while it would bring in millions of dollars for the district, it could actually lower your family's tax bill. The operating referendum currently brings in about $8 million each year. If voters say yes in May, the school district would continue receiving those funds, but at a lower tax rate. We asked Crown Point Community School Corporation Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Todd Terrell, what this means.
Our current year's referendum, even though it was approved to be 21 cents, is actually at the same rate that we're going after right now, which is 18 cents. So as that assessed value continues to go up, that gives us an ability to lower the tax rate. The assessed value means all of the properties within Crown Point Community Schools each year typically increase.
Almost half of the funding would go toward academic programs and salaries for 70 certified teachers. Another 27% would help manage class sizes as enrollment grows. The rest would support school safety and competitive pay to retain staff.
Public education is about the greater good of our community. When we originally passed the first referendum back in 2011, our homes that were on the market for sale were on the market for 60, 70, 80, sometimes even longer days before they would sell. Once the referendum was passed, within the next 2 months, it dropped literally to where homes were on the market for like a day, sometimes not even that.
Crown Point's strong teacher salaries are one reason the district remains competitive. Last year, 12 open teaching positions brought in nearly 90 applicants. The average Crown Point teacher earns $71,000 a year, which is well above the state average. Some members of the Crown Point community have come together and formed a nonprofit organization to help advocate for the referendum called Friends of Crown Point Schools. We talked to one of their committee members on how you can help.
If you haven't liked us on Facebook, Friends of Crown Point Schools on Facebook, like us and follow us. If you don't already have a referendum yes yard sign in your yard, you can still request them. You go to the website supportcpschools.com and you can make a request online for a yard sign.
Whether this referendum passes or not is up to the voters, but district leaders say it's key to continuing the excellence in Crown Point schools. For CPTV, I'm Trent Jocelyn.
American political activist and author Charlie Kirk visited the campus of Purdue University in West Lafayette this past Thursday in his The American Comeback Tour. The tour is designed to give leftist students a chance to challenge Kirk's conservative beliefs, in which he says he's encouraging an open conversation on the reality of U.S. politics. Founded in 2012, Kirk is the founder of Turning Point USA, an American nonprofit organization that advocates for conservative politics on high school, college, and university.
I think the pro of Charlie Kirk being here on campus is it opens up dialogue. That's what higher education is supposed to be, a place of reasoning, a place of conversation, to dive into some of the challenging topics and to learn more about them. And I think the challenge with that is it often brings conflict. Students that are, disruptive, maybe not approving of some of the ideas that are brought up, but I think conversation is important for campus, for students to learn.
Yeah, I think it's the absolute best way to do things because I see a lot of people get up and they just yell their beliefs. They yell, there isn't very much open discussion in this political climate. I think it's really awesome that Charlie's here and he's willing to have a debate with people, but respectfully. I think that's the biggest thing we're missing on the both left and the right side of the political spectrum is just respect for each other.
Hundreds of NWI citizens took to the CP Square on Saturday, joining thousands across the world in the, quote, hands-off protest, end quote. The local protest was organized by NWI Takes Action Group, who spoke out against Trump's recent moves and plans to fire thousands of federal employees, cut healthcare funding, close Social Security Administration field offices, and more. CPTV's Mireille Fernandez took to the square to witness the protest live and talk with some of the participants.
On Saturday, April 5th, Crown Point residents joined cities across the nation in a wave of protest as residents gathered downtown for a hands-off rally, part of a national day of action aimed at opposing what organizers call the growing influence of billionaires and political elites over American life.
And the reason we're doing it is very simple. We're sick of our democracy being kicked apart by bro dudes. I mean, that's not much more to say than that. The best democracy in the world that's lasted for over 200 years and has served as a beacon of light for everyone and countries all around the world is being kicked apart, and we're not going to have it.
The demonstration, held near the historic Courthouse Square, was one of the many across the country that called out figures like Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Protesters accused them and their allies of stripping away public resources, from healthcare and jobs to data privacy and essential services for private gain.
I'm here because action is needed right now. It's hard to talk, but we can't stay silent. There's too much bad stuff happening, and we gotta take action, some kind.
Chanting messages like hands off our democracy and carrying signs demanding accountability, Crown Point residents echoed a collective frustration with what they view as the dismantling of government systems meant to serve the people.
So what is going on here is people are letting their voices be known that these blanket cuts to Medicaid, to Medicare, to Social Security, to veteran benefits, to education is exactly what is wrong with what is going on currently, where the executive is overstepping the legislative authority and making these cuts. So the reason why these cuts are happening is because they have to be able to have funding for tax cuts for the most wealthy and the largest corporations in the country. And what is going to happen? So in education alone, if they eliminate the Department of Education, you get rid of Title I. Title I eliminates 661 teachers in Northwest Indiana that are helping students overcome learning gaps. And if you eliminate education, then students with disabilities, special needs, those no longer exist. They lack funding. If you eliminate Medicaid, and you don't have Medicaid waivers, those parents no longer can afford the care for kids with special needs. And if you eliminate cuts to veterans' health care, then veterans who served our country, men and women who sacrificed their lives, are not going to have the fulfilled promise of the Honor the Pact Act to make sure that they had exposures to fire pits, exposures to Agent Orange, exposures to radiation. They get the health care benefits and their families that they deserve. For CPTV News, I'm Mireille Fernandez.
The number of tornado warnings has climbed significantly over the last few years, causing scientists and meteorologists to suggest the infamous Tornado Alley, an area in the Midwest known for its high rate of tornado activity, is expanding eastward into regions like Indiana. What does this mean for us in NWI? With more information on this emerging thought is CPTV's Braden Zamoyski.
This is a sight that could become more common for Hoosiers as an EF1 tornado hit Cedar Lake on March 15th. Packing winds up to 110 miles an hour, the twister caused extensive damage to homes, businesses, and infrastructure. The area experienced uprooted trees, downed power lines, and severe roof damage, such as the church behind me where clay tiles were flying blocks away. Some residents recall the moment when they heard the sirens blare and the wind start to pick up.
I just woke up, stuff started hitting the house and stuff, and pretty much I just hear like a big boom. There was no siren at all, and I get up and my phone starts going off, and I go hide. It was kind of scary, not gonna lie.
This isn't the only area to experience severe weather, as there were 31 confirmed tornadoes in Indiana during the month of March. Looking for an answer on the changing weather patterns, we went to meteorologist Leanne Doskasil for more information.
So a recent study looked at 60 years of past data, and they found that over Indiana, there was a statistically significant decrease in warm season tornado days. So the warm season would be your typical severe weather season in May or June, and they found that overall in these months, Indiana is seeing a decrease in the amount of tornado days. For the cool season, which would be January and February, when we've seen some of these tornadoes happen this year, they found there was a slight increase in the amount of tornado days, although it wasn't statistically significant.
With uncertain weather patterns, the safest thing you can do at home is make sure you know where your safe spot is and stay up to date on the National Weather Service tornado safety rules. For CPTV, I'm Brandon Zamoyski.
Temperatures are warming up and it's finally starting to feel like spring. Here with your 5-day weather forecast is Rana Stevens.
You're right, temperatures have been hovering mostly above normal the last few days, and that will continue today with a high of 78 this afternoon. Slight winds out of the east at 9 miles per hour and no real threats of rain. Taking a look at our 5-day weather forecast, on Friday we'll likely see showers as a cold front moves through the region and only a high of 67. For the weekend, dry weather returns on Saturday, but cool temps remain as it'll only get up to 55 for a high. But don't fear, skies will continue to stay sunny and will rebound to a high of 70 degrees on Sunday. And then check out this high of 83 on Monday as we return to school. The long-range forecast continues to show temps hovering around 70 degrees for the foreseeable future. Enjoy this weather, guys.
Thanks, Raina. Busy spring sports weekend for CPHS teams. Here with sports is Miri Fernandez.
The CP baseball team looked to win back-to-back games as they faced off against Twin Lakes in a non-conference matchup. Junior IU commit Logan Johnston got the start for the Dogs, but struggled to find the zone in the first inning. Dogs coach Steve Strayer replaced Johnson with sophomore Miguel Zeronius, who suffered an elbow injury in his second inning of work. To make things tougher, CP started off slowly offensively, and the defense kicked the ball around early as well. As a result, the Twin Lakes took an early 3-zip lead going into the third. But as we've seen this season, CP flipped the switch and unleashed their offense, amassing 13 runs in 6 innings and getting the win, 13-3. The CP boys volleyball team hosted the Ileana Vikings on Saturday. Josh Boltema led the attack for the Vikings with 13 kills. CP's Drew Schaefer played great defense for the Dogs, leading the team with 8 digs. The Vikings made quick work of CP, winning both the first 2 sets with the same score of 25-21 and finishing off the match with a score of 25-17 third set win. CP travels to take on the Portage Indians tomorrow night at 5 p.m.
We're getting better after every game, every practice, so I think there's going to be some wins coming our way.
The IHSAA is introducing 2 new girls' sports to the Indiana Emerging Sports List, and the Indianapolis Colts are helping to kickstart one of the sports by providing all the necessary gear for schools to get started. The 2 sports now begin the process of working toward becoming fully sanctioned. Here's CPTV Sports' Gabe Trevino with more.
More changes will be coming to girls' Indiana high school sports in the next few years. With girls wrestling being introduced recently last year, now the IHSAA is introducing plans to include girls lacrosse and girls flag football the options for girls sports. In order for a sport to become an emerging sport, 20 schools must participate. Currently, there are 27. In order for the sports to become sanctioned by the IHSAA, there has to be 100 schools competing. These sports have 3 years to meet these requirements. If not, they will be dropped from the emerging sports list. However, although the sports have not yet been sanctioned for the 2025-2026 school year, significant progress has been made to incorporate these new sports. Helping to lead the charge, the Indianapolis Colts have made a $1 million investment to support the spread of girls flag football in Indiana, with their Road to 100 campaign aimed to recruit 100 Indiana schools to form a girls flag football team. But will this donation gain enough interest in the sport to meet the requirements?
I think that there'll be a lot of excitement at these new sports. Sometimes kids are looking for things to do, so that this just gives more opportunities and more, experience that they might be able to get in their high school years.
Does the fact that these sports are not officially sanctioned have an effect on athletes' participation?
It felt like my playing abilities were going unnoticed, and especially for the IHSAA specifically. Since we're a club, it costs a lot more to play for them compared to if we were to be in a specific high school league.
For CPTV News, I'm Gabe Trevino.
And that's it for sports.
Editors of Forbes have released a list of new Ivies, with multiple colleges from the Midwest making the cut. Did any Indiana schools make the list? Ari has all the details on who made the cut.
Most common universities that Crown Point high schoolers are most familiar with tend to be Purdue, Illinois Urbana-Champaign, Notre Dame, and Northwestern. Students at CPHS are exposed to a variety of colleges all around Crown Point High School. However, with these schools already having moderately selective acceptance rate, it leaves students to wonder, if these schools are newly named Ivy Leagues, will this further affect their chance of getting accepted into these universities? CPTV talks with guidance counselor Jamie Rogers to identify key components on what she has seen with students trying to get into these new Ivies.
Those schools are already very competitive to get into, so I don't really think it's going to change anything because over the last few years it has been harder and harder to get into those schools.
With no clear dramatic change within being accepted into these schools, the rates remain the same as of 2024. Purdue stands at an average of 50% acceptance rate, Notre Dame 11%, Urbana-Champaign 42.4%, and Northwestern 7.5%.
I think that being in-state is really nice. However, I think that applications going into those types of schools are going to be a lot more harder. They're going to look at our GPAs and SAT scores and ACT scores, and I would hope that while they're going through application processes, I would hope they would see more of work ethic also.
For CPTV News, I'm Ariana Pantoja. We've all witnessed some violent storms that hit locally over the past year. What we're not familiar with is the extent of the damage caused by these storms and how communities build themselves back. Here's CPTV's Raina Stevens to tell us more about the local damage and recovery efforts.
Gloomy days like these remind us of the devastating, powerful storms that hit Indiana over the past 2 weeks, causing significant damage to small businesses and affecting residents in over 20 counties. Many communities are grappling with damaged homes and widespread power outages, highlighting the urgent need for support and recovery efforts. Recently, Governor Mike Braun has activated the Indiana National Guard to help with said recovery. Governor Braun claims, quote, "During times like these, the best of our Hoosier hospitality shows in how we care for our neighbors and communities," end quote. Several organizations based in Indiana are collaborating to support communities affected by the storms in conjunction with the National Guard's recovery efforts. Among those providing hope and assistance is InVOAD, Indiana Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. Stephen Kane, the former president of the Disaster Aid Relief Group, InVOAD, shares his thoughts on storm recovery as emphasized by Governor Braun.
This organization, VOAD, is important to Northwest Indiana because we literally helped. Well, we quit counting after 60,000. I used that number before, but we literally helped 60,000 families in Northwest Indiana get back into their homes after the floods.
With CPTV News, I'm Raina Stevens.
That's it for today's show. Thanks for taking the time to tune in and for being with us.
Remember, you can view all of our past episodes on crowntownmedia.com.
You can also follow us on Twitter at CrownT Media.
For Ari, Mireille, and Raina, and all of us here at CPTV, I'm Ryan Welsh.
And I'm Ari Pantoja.
Take care.